Hello, everybody. We're live again with me, Bella, and Simone. We are doing this series where we're going through all the profiles. There are 12 profiles in human design, and they are based on the lines. So it starts with 1-3, 1-4, 2-4, and all the way up to 6-3. And now we are kind of in the middle of it. So we are going to speak about the 4-6 today. And it happens to be so that Simone and we are 4-6s. So we are going to be able to share with you some of our personal experience with the 4-6. And as usual, the way that we're setting it up in this live is that first we are speaking about the 4th line, then we're speaking about the 6th line, and then we're going to do some chart examples. And we have people that have given us their chart. So you might be a lucky one who's chosen. And Simone, I just want to introduce you, or I want you to introduce you a little bit and tell people who you are.
I'm Simone, and my gift is soul communication. And literally, I can speak to the soul of anything, and everything has a soul level energy. And so that is my gift. And I'm quadriclariant, so I see your energy, hear energy, feel energy in my body. And sometimes I just get a whole block of information, which is called claircognizance. And I believe in just exactly how a soul brings through the information is how it's my responsibility to bring it through. So if a soul is talking, I just give you word for word what the soul is saying. Or if the soul brings through pictures or videos, I just start describing. And because of my open G, I have no judgment. So souls feel really comfortable in saying whatever it is they want to say. And what I've come to learn over all these years of doing this is that souls deliver messages in a way that people can receive them, and which is a really beautiful thing. So exciting to be a part of. And I always feel so blessed to be able to speak to someone's soul, or the soul of something that we're working on, like the consciousness of the line 4-6, or the 4-6 profile on the line 4 and the 6th line. So super fun and exciting. I'm excited to see what comes through.
Yeah, thank you for being here with me. And this is what I love doing. So I am more, when it comes to the systems of Genki's and human design, like really deep in understanding the mechanics of the human design and kind of the frequency bands and everything is kind of the theory of these systems, but I don't ever want it to stay theory. So I always bring it back into the body, into the connection with our life force. And then having Simone that comes in with this intuitive way, then it doesn't become like a system in the mind, it becomes something alive. And that's what we are kind of role modeling for you a little bit tonight. So I'm just going to dive into the 4th line. So if you are 4-6, you're going to have, of course, the 4th line. If you are 4-1, you're also going to have the 4th line. If you are 2-4, you're going to have the 4th line, but it's going to be the 2nd line. So there are going to be different ways that you can have it in your design. Today we're focusing on having it as the 1st line. The 1st line is really what people kind of see first when they see you somewhere. That's what they see first. The 6th line or the 2nd line is more hidden and a little bit deeper. So if you are 4-6, the 4th line is going to be how people perceive you when you first kind of go into a room. If we use the analogy of human design, and we say that the lines are 6 personalities or 6 people living in a house, we're going to have the 4th line on the 2nd floor on the balcony. And it's going to stand there, and maybe it's going to speak about something that it hasn't created itself. Maybe it's the 1st line, the creator, that has written a book. And the 4th line would stand there and say, like, I did this book, and then I tried what it said, and it really worked for me. And I had this and this and this and that has changed in my life since I wrote this book. And other people are going to come, and they don't even have to knock on the door. The 4th line is already on the balcony, and people are like kind of waving from down, and it's like open house. And it's this whole network that is creating around the 4th line that speaks from an open heart and from its own experience. It becomes the spokesperson for something that's really vibing with that heart, with that truth. And what happens is that it creates trust in relationship. From that connection from the heart, it creates trust. And that's what's super important for the 4th line to have. And even when it comes to sexuality, what we say for the 4th line is friends first. It wants to know that the person is that quality where the heart can be a connection, that it's not just a sexual connection usually. So it's friends first, it's about trust. And this also leads us into more of the shadow aspect, because what's going to happen for the fourth line is that there are times in life when that trust is going to be broken. And that's when the fourth line kind of has its biggest challenge, because then it goes into, of course, closing the heart, but also kind of anxiety, because it's not only that it can't trust that person, it feels like it can't trust life. And it has this way of sometimes numbing down, of it, like not wanting to feel anything, because it was so hard to lose that friendship or lose that trust. And it can become a bit distant, a bit cold, a bit like lifeless in a way. And in that shadow frequency, what happens with the fourth line is that it's going to start to kind of convince people, because it's afraid to not be on the same page. So it feels like it has to use that gift of conviction, or that gift of being a spokesperson, in order to make sure that you're on the same page. But it comes from that place of fear, and it doesn't come from an open heart. So that then the fourth line can kind of sometimes feel even like a little bit like a politician. It's just kind of want to convince you so that it can feel safe. But it comes from a lack of feeling safe, from a lack of feeling trust. So it's very important. One of the key words for the fourth line is gentleness, to kind of soften and come back to the warmth of your own heart. And when you feel like you're going cold or going distant, to kind of breathe. And we're speaking here about the fourth chakra, so heart chakra, but also the place where we have the lungs that can expand, and giving more place to the fourth line, to the heart, or can contract and numb down. So really, breath is very, very important, and breath work can be a really good thing for the fourth line, for example. Yeah, I think that is like the main thing. So I want to bring in you, Simone. When it comes to the fourth line, we both have it as, we are 4/6, so we have it in this position. And I want to hear maybe both a little bit your experience, and also if there is anything that comes through that you want to share with us.
Yeah, I have a couple of really good examples of moving, being wholehearted, and then, not trusting, just tuning in to see which experience would be. So for my career, I was a college professor. I was full-time faculty at a community college in Tucson, and I love my job. And I did it with wholeheartedness. And then we had a change of administration. And when I began my career, I remember my interview, I was asked what was I looking for, and I had moved to Tucson. I'm Cajun, I'm from South Louisiana, and I had always lived in places where I had a family of friends, or I made a family of friends really quickly. And in Tucson, it was a little bit harder to create that family of friends. And so I was really looking for my family, my people, right? And so I said, I'm looking for my family of friends, and, something I can commit to. And so I did, and I proceeded to have the most amazing colleagues who all became my friends, and watch my kids grow up, and we shared holidays together, and I really had a family of friends. And then when this change of administration came in, what I noticed is that people were being fired for being the truth of who they were. And I didn't trust the environment anymore, because I knew at any moment it could be me. And in that moment, like, I shut down the truth of who I was at work, and I did my job, but work was work, and who I was as a human being, that was my home life. And then what I noticed is that over time, I tried to do as much as I could online or remotely, because I wanted more and more to be the truth of who I was, instead of having to, feel like I was separate. And the good news is that changes were made, and new people were hired that didn't experience that, that environment of being fired for the truth of who you were, or for, speaking your truth. And so we were able to, the culture was able to shift back into wholeheartedness, which was really lovely. And simultaneously, I've thought about how people who were hired after that administrative change, where we were no longer working in a fear-based institution, they didn't really know the truth of who I was. They never experienced my wholeheartedness like other people had. And but I was really happy that the shift came and, things moved back into wholeheartedness. But that's an example at work of how, I shut down my four because I couldn't, I couldn't trust, like you were talking about. I couldn't trust, and I didn't feel like I could be soft in that environment. So that's an example at work, And do you want to see what the four line has to share with us?
I wonder if today we would maybe speak to the 4-6 as a whole, because kind of I'm interested in that. So I feel like I feel like I want to go on and speak about the 6 line, and I really want to speak to the 4-6. And for some reason,
it's perfect.
Okay,
Let's do that, because you and I have a whole series where we've spoken to all the lines, and that'll come out eventually. So, but we haven't spoken to the 4-6 profile, so that will be fun. Let's see what the 4-6 profile has to share. The first thing the 4-6 profile shows me is this beautiful geometry. It reminds me of a top, like an old-fashioned top, and it looked kind of like this. And then from that geometry, there was a spiraling. And when the spiral came back around the back side, it truly is a spiral in that it changes levels, if you will. And the 4-6 profile says that it wants you, so fascinating. It shows that when we go through, when we use our heart in the same way, it's almost like we create a groove. And the 4-6 profile is encouraging us to, in a sense, use the whole bandwidth of the 4. And it shows that when we use the whole bandwidth of the 4, and you think about a spiral changing levels, if you will, when we can breathe, in a sense, through the heart, or experience love at different vibrational planes of wholeheartedness, the expansiveness that occurs is quantum. We take quantum leaps. And the line 4-6, the 4-6 profile is showing us that when we love in the same way, and we don't, they're saying when we don't explore love, we create a groove that's hard to come out of. And the affect, they're saying, is that when different experiences of love or opportunities for love present themselves, it's hard for us to recognize them as love when we've created this comfort zone, they're saying. So they're encouraging us to expand our comfort zone of what love is. And they say that we can do that intuitively, that we can tune into they gave us a very simple question. Is this love? Is this love? Is this the vibration of love? Where is the love in this experience? And they're saying that we often don't perceive something as love because it's out of our vibratory comfort zone. And there's way more love out there for us if we simply allow it. And for the 4-6, what they're showing is really to get to that 6th line, you have to exercise the more you exercise that bandwidth of love that you're capable of, and have the open-heartedness for varying expressions of love. That's what connects us in a sense to the 6th line, because the 6th line says the way I'm going to help you experience love is beyond what you can imagine. It's beyond what you've experienced. It's the 6th line is saying one way, one metaphor that they can use is you know, the metaphor of when you get lemons, make lemonade. So the line 6 is saying, when you're in your Ford, you can get lemons and make lemonade or lemon dessert or lemon meringue pie or lemon whatever. That's expanding that vibratory field. And what that does, it's almost like an exercise of expansion that helps you flow into the 6th line wisdom. And it's almost like a tuning in, like when you tune in at that heart level and your bandwidth expands, you're able to tap into the flow of the 6th line that's been there all along. It's just waiting for you to get into the flow with it. And so now I kind of understand that geometry that was given, because the more we expand through our wholeheartedness, that's when we, in a sense, flow with the 6th line part of us, because we're open to beyond what we could have imagined as love, of expressions of love. And the 6th line is saying, and when you really, if you can imagine everything in your life being an expression of love, then you are flowing in the 6th line vibration of possibility and understanding the mechanics of beyond what we know right now, beyond what we can experience right now. I had an experience of this today. I'm going to share it. For years and years, I've done acupuncture for 20 years, and I'm not a memorizer. It's part of my human design, which was so empowering. But I keep buying acupuncture books, and I know that I'm doing some kind of color puncture, light therapy with my hands. But a friend of mine, we were going somewhere today, and she was telling me about this person who takes cosmic needles for acupuncture. And I was like, I knew in the truth of my body, that was the piece that I was missing. And I like suddenly could do it. We were driving and I was like, oh, yep, there it is. Oh, I could. So I had expanded in my enough to get into this, to have the understanding of what my 6th line has been trying to teach me for 15, 17, 12, a long time. So that's an example from my life that happened today that I think I realized from what the 4-6 profile is telling us. Fascinating. Yeah. Do you have questions?
Yeah, I love how this is an example of how the 4-6 is non-linear. So usually what we do, we come on and we speak about the theory of the 4th line, and then we speak about the theory of the 6th line, and then, maybe Simone comes in a little bit, and then we go into what they are doing together. And what happens when we have like kind of 2 4-6s, it's not linear. So what you could see today is like we came in, we spoke about the 4, and then the whole like channeling about the 4-6 comes in before we even go into the 6th line, because it's like there is some reason for like that's the way it wants to come out. And I guess that's what sometimes can confuse other profiles. So when we speak about the 5-1, for example, or the 1-3, that have that like one that kind of really have to build the foundation first and have a little bit more of that like step-by-step approach and making sure. And that's something that the 4-6 doesn't really do, because we are like, it's about the whole. So we don't care about the order in a way. And I think it's interesting that's happening. So I think from this, I want to take it just so that people that are new to human design, so they understand the 6 line. And then I want to go back to some of the notes that I took about the 4-6 together. So I really feel like you were speaking to this, Simone, that the 6 line has been there all the time because it's the body, it's the wisdom. The first line is your personality, it's the role that you're playing. It was people first seeing your personality. The 6 line is embedded in the wisdom of your soul, in the wisdom of your body, of your DNA, of your lineage, like everything that has been in the whole human evolution, like up until where we are now. So the 6 line is kind of different from all the other lines, and we have spoken about it before when it was in the personality. Now we have it in the body. The 6 line is about spirit. The element is spirit. We could say it's the crown chakra, we could say it's spirit. It's future oriented, it's a visionary. It's anchored in that vision for the future and nurturing that vision. And especially when we have it in the body, it is about nurturing the vision because it's not tangible. It's not about thinking in a way. It's about, as a 4-6, it's the 6 line is about being surrounded with people that can kind of maybe not look in exactly the same direction, but look towards the future and care about the whole. And then the 6 line can feel, the 4th line can feel trust, and the 6th line can feel the vision that we're actually going there. We are evolving. It is anchored in spirit. We could say it's the most subtle. If you start with the 1st line, it's very physical. The 2nd line is very fluid. The 3rd line is kind of about the solar plexus, very fiery. The 4th line is kind of, like I said, breath and air and heart. The 5th line that we spoke about last week, 2 weeks ago, it's about the vibration of the vocal cords and the voice. And the 6th line is even more subtle. So it's grounded in spirit. So there is this kind of interesting, and now it sounds like already kind of less practical, that we have the body and the spirit that are kind of a body that is nurtured through spirit, that is grounded through spirit. And that's a paradox in a way, but that's what the 6th line is here to bring. It's the spirit into the body and the settling to the body, like feeding the electromagnetism of the body. It's the endocrine system, we could say too. It's that system that is like kind of just signals that are sent around. So in a way, it's sensitive, and in another way, it's very powerful. It's almost like the body is much more about the energy than the physical, or there's this combination about the energy and the physical. If we speak about the 6th line here, we say that all 6 lines have 3 phases. So the first 20, 30 years, it's about trial and error. So there's often going to be a lot of things that makes the 6th line not being able, things that happens with 6th line doesn't trust the body. So it can be like, even from like you're born too early and you're like, you're laying, you're not even maybe your mom in the beginning, and the consciousness of the baby is asking, like, why am I even here? Like, why do I have to come into this body? Why did I have to go from spirit to form? And that is the duality, or that's the paradox that I was saying right before. It's like, to be spirit and to come into form, that's quite a journey, and it's not always easy to accept that. So it has that flavor to it, and it can continue for the first Saturn return. So the first 28, 29 years, you kind of do a lot of trial and error with the body, and what that often leads to is that you don't want to be in your body. It feels more safe to be in spirit. And you can even start to kind of look down on the body. And that's when you become disincarnate. That's when you kind of sit on the roof and you see things objectively, but you don't engage in your own life. And also when you're not in your body, the heart is part of the body. So the 4th line cannot come to life completely either if you're not there, if you're somewhere else, because you don't trust the human form. You don't trust humanity. You trust the future, but you don't see the future right now. So you can't be here. So you become a bit aloof. You can become a little bit arrogant because it's like kind of just objective mind. And more than anything, you're not going to be able to. Probably the 6th line body is one of the most amazing bodies in the sense that it's kind of the machine of the future. And you are missing that if you're not inhabiting the body. So from here, I just want to say, kind of take it into the 4-6, and then I want to bring you back in, Simone. Like when the 4th line is not anchored in the heart, it's not open and soft belly, soft heart, that's when it's going to stay in the challenge of anxiety. It's going to feel like all the problems are really big. And people might look at the 4 on the balcony and they're like, oh, you have so many friends and there are so many things that went well for you. How can you have so big, like how can you feel like you have big problems? But when the heart is closed, everything feels like a big issue, and there's anxiety. So what we say for the 4th line is breaking out of anxiety by coming back to your heart. Like every time you feel anxiety or you feel like a problem is too big, how can you be like, okay, is my heart open or closed now? And come back there. And when you come back to your heart, you can break through and come into the 6th line body. That in this case, we wanted to trust the form. We wanted to trust the kind of beyond humanness of the form, that we are electromagnetic beings, and that we are here to have an experience through that. I'm coughing, so I think it's a good point to bring in, Simone.
Oh, I'm kind of blown away, because by that geometry that came in at the beginning, which was starting at the body and circling back around to the body, and then doing it at different, vibratory fields. So you've brought us, now I understand why the 4-line profile started with that image, because listening to you, the electromagnetics, you pulled it right back, to the geometry that came through. How beautiful is that? Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. And I also loved how you talked about, how important it is to be embodied as a 6th line. And that is something I have, experienced over the trajectory of my life. And I know the more embodied I am, the more capacity I have for my work at soul level consciousness.
Am I frozen or is Simone frozen? I don't really know. But let's see whose internet isn't working. Well, I want to go back to, whether Simone is on or not, I want to go back to exploring love. And I do feel like that's really the most important thing. If we come back to the 4th line and say we need to make the 4th line happy before we can break through to the body side, to the soul side, what's really important is love what you do. If you are doing what you love every day, you're not going to have anxiety. You're not going to feel like things are wrong. You're not going, okay, now she's gone completely. I'll bring her on if she comes back. So if you do what you love on an everyday basis, you're not going to feel anxiety. In Genki, we say that the 4th line is the server. In human design, we say it's the opportunist. I would like to bring a new name for the 4th line. For me, it's the lover. Because it's here to love what it's doing. It's here to explore life through love, which I didn't speak it like that before, but what Simone just brought through, that is what it's here to do. And it's saying, what's not love? What's not love? Because as long as it stays in an open heart, that nothing can really go wrong. And it's that decision of coming back to the heart and not being anxiety or not being kind of like everything that's wrong, that is allowing it access to the 6th line. And we know that the 6th line is the future. The 6th line is the role model. So it's only with an open heart that it can tap in to that part of the wisdom of the role modeling that is in the body. And there is another thing that I think is really interesting too, with the 6th line in the body as opposed to in the personality. In the body, it's the DNA, it's the unconscious, it's the soul. Here she is again. I'm going to bring her on. You just, I don't know, you just disappeared, but I'm weaving, explore through love right now. So I was saying, when it is in the body, you can't consciously manipulate it. You can't really use it. The only way that you can get access to the 6th line is really through doing what you love, through opening the 4th line and then breaking through to the 6th line. Now I'm going to show this in the charts in the Genkis that I'm going to show you. So there is something with the wisdom of the sixth line in the body, that is not something you can use for your own personal agenda. It's something that you can't manipulate. It's something that you access or don't access. It's something that you embody or don't embody. When you break through with the heart, and when you decide it's worth it to be here in physical form, you are going to have the opportunity to tap into something that is new. And the sixth line reality is something we're going into in 6-7 years, and it's going to probably be easier for sixth line bodies. They're not going to feel so alien. And a lot of also the current like medicine is not done for somebody with a sixth line body who's that sensitive, that everything is kind of electromagnetic. So it's much more sensitive in that sense. It's also in a way a machine that can be a thermometer, can be something that discerns a lot of things. I feel like medicine today is going to have to evolve, and I feel like it's going to do that as we go in. We're in a first line reality right now. We're going to be in a sixth line reality from 2027. There's something with this shift where 4 6s are also completely transpersonal. First trigram line 1, 2, 3, very much experiencing for themselves, investigating for themselves, kind of flowing for their own sake. And the 4, 5, 6 is always with the other, is always in relationship, is transpersonal. So here we have a profile that has 2 transpersonal lines. So it's very much about connecting from the heart, and then being role models for like how do we walk into the future? How do we include the bigger picture? So I would say kind of the thing that I would also say it's important for the 4 6 is to not forget the personal. And I think this is something both you and I can really relate to, Simone, how we are so much in the transpersonal. It's so easy for me to be in my 6th line attraction or 6th line IQ or 6th line life's work, in the unity, in the universal love and all that. And then it comes a moment where I'm like, what about me, the human, the person, you know? So it's also important to see, the vision and the worldview is very transpersonal, but there is still a personal destiny. If we look at the human design crosses, we're going to have right angle crosses and left angle crosses. The right angle crosses, this is the last one of the right angle crosses. It says we have a personal destiny. So even if so much of the expression of the 4th line, 4th 6 profile and the 4th line and 6th line is transpersonal, at the end of the day, the destiny is personal. So you're here to do what you love. So that's what you want to remember. And that is super, super important. And I think that's why many 4 6s kind of serve and serve and serve and serve until they die. That's why I don't like the Genki term for it. You just serve until you die. I don't like the opportunist term either, because I feel opportunist is just like kind of, again, taking. So I would like to say this is the lover, and it's about doing what you love, choosing your path, and sharing from your heart from that place, and connecting with everybody in your network. Everything for the 4th line is just a phone call away. And then being nurtured through embodiment to that vision of where we're going, what this technology that our body is, like how amazing that is, and how more and more as human beings we can tap into the fascinating, machine technology that we have been given, instead of feeling it's not safe and it's going to die someday. The spirit wants to experience the form, and that's what the 6th line wants to really like grounding in that, the spirit grounding in the body. That's what I see. Yeah, Simone. So I don't even remember when it was that you left us. So I don't know where you want to start over.
Oh, I was loving what you shared about the 6, about how the 6th line body is the machine of the future, and how, the more embodied we are as 6th line beings through our heart, that the more powerful our experiences. And I love what you just shared about not forgetting ourselves when we are, to love ourselves too in this process of experiencing love in the world. Yeah. Beautiful. Let's see if the 4 6 profile has anything else to share. It's showing me videos of when we go out into the world and we are in our open-heartedness, that some 4 6 profiles will receive knowing, and it might be just to speak to somebody who's in line with you or who's in a shop with you. And fear or other thoughts, conditioned thoughts, can keep you from saying the thing that wants to come out of you. And the 4-6 profile is encouraging us to love ourselves enough to be able to share that wisdom. And the 4-6 says, this 4-6 profile says, we know for some of you projectors, you have to wait for the invitation, but we're talking about receiving others and receiving yourself, and to remember to engage, that sometimes it's the kindness of strangers that shifts everyone. And as they're talking, they flashed me an image from a session I did this week, and I was working with a delightful lady who was in Australia, and she, for our session, was sitting in the park. And I don't remember what the theme was that was coming through for her soul, but there was so much light coming out of her that there was a little lady walking down a pathway, and she had to come over and literally touch the woman I was working with. She was beaming so much light. And when she came over, and she was fascinated that the woman who was sitting in the park in Australia was on her computer. And she came over and started talking to her. And I know she had loved to share. And she was also attracted to the light of the person I was working with, which was something she needed to hear in that moment. But how many times have we, in our as a 4-6, that we're going through and something is coming through to connect with another person who's a stranger and we don't know, and we don't do it. And that was a perfect example of what the 4-6 profile is sharing with us, to have the courage to be in that open-heartedness, to say hello, to greet people we don't know. And sometimes it's these small gestures that shift the energy of everything. And now the 4-6 profile is really laughing. It's just like in so much joy from sharing this encouragement to have us kind of move out of our comfort zones and be kind to others which is in a really grounded way. So it's an interesting message.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm thinking a little bit about when we have an open emotional center and we want things to be nice. It's a little bit of a similar thing. We might not speak our truth because we just want everybody to be friends, and we want it to be nice. And I can see the 4th line. And in my case, it's kind of hard to know which is which. But when I hear you speak, I understand. Yeah, if you want to have everybody on a heart level, then you don't want conflict, and you might avoid conflict. And by avoiding conflict, sometimes you might avoid speaking your truth. So that makes a lot of sense. And for the 4th line to not be the politician or the one that has to convince somebody else, but the ones that is a little bit fixed in saying, if we're not just friends and everything is nice, it's not good enough. Like it's that kind of a little bit of that fixedness that the 4th line can have when it doesn't feel safe. So that makes sense. And I want to, in the charts today, I want to really see if I can focus, because I know that when we speak about the 6th line, especially in the body, it's a little bit out there, because the 6th line is a mental line. 1 and 2 are physical, 3 and 4 are emotional, 5 and 6 are mental. So here we're speaking about the mental line coding the body, which is a little bit strange. So I want to really focus on the 4-6 profile in the charts, and I'm going to bring them up again right away, because I have a question from Brandon as well that says, are you looking at the lines? Are always what we have. There's one number, there is a dot or decimal, and there's another number. The line is always the second number. I don't know why we call it line. We could probably call it decimal, but we call it line. So he's asking, how do we know the profile? Is it to sum, how many 2 do we have? How many 5 do we have? How many 4 do we have? No, we are looking only in the Genki at the green spheres, at the activation sequence. So you look at point 4 in life's work, point 4 in evolution. This is your conscious. This is your life's work in evolution. That is your conscious 4th line. That's your personality. And then you look at the other green spheres, and then you have the 6th line, and this is your purpose and your radiance, and that's point 6. And the same way, if we would look in human design, you're looking at the 2 top ones on the right and the 2 top ones on the left. And that's where you see point 4 and point 6. So that's the way that we know it. And I love to go here and see what it is that we have been speaking about. We are saying that the biggest challenge, pathway challenge for the 4-6 is to break out of an anxiety. It's to live a life where you're in anxiety because you don't do what you love to do. And the only way to do the breakthrough into the radiance, into the purpose, into the core stability of your body is to overcome this challenge. Otherwise, it's almost like this part is going to be veiled for you. Your soul, your body, your DNA, your inner wisdom is going to be veiled. So here we have somebody who has the 7th Genki and the 13. So if she doesn't do what she loves, she's going to feel division and discord. She's going to be like, no, this doesn't feel like what I love. This doesn't feel like my network is with me. This doesn't feel like I have friends, like all the things. This doesn't feel like I can breathe. It just feels like division and discord. And it's probably going to pop up more than anything in love and community. So in relationships, in community, she's going to feel that thing. And she's going to feel like she can't really tap into her inner guidance. She doesn't really feel the discernment. Is this a good friend or a bad friend? And especially the first 20, 30 years of her life, she's probably going to choose the wrong friends. And then it's going to feel more division and more discord and more distrust. And the soul, even if you can't tap into the beauty of the soul, is going to respond with saying, oh, you're really lost. You're in the wrong place in the 2nd Genki. She's not going to feel nurtured in the 6th line. She's going to maybe even feel depression. She's going to feel like spirit and form don't go together. She's probably not going to trust her creativity. She might want to try to force it. She might try to do a lot of things to not feel, because it's just too hard. If you think about those 4 words, division, discord, dislocation, entropy, they are so heavy. So, and then in relationships, she's going to have a hunger for something different. That 4th line is going to be wanting to connect with the heart, but it's not going to find it. And then her core wound is to repress it. She's exactly that kind of what you were saying, Simone. She's not going to want to even look at it because it's too hard. It's too much. So she's going to repress that what she feels, and she's going to feel oppressed by her life, by the world, by everything. She's not going to have the fuel to be recognized in an everyday life and work in good partnerships. She's not going to have the fuel to be a spokesperson for what it is to live a virtuous life. So that's really the 4-6 that doesn't break through the challenge of anxiety, that doesn't take the responsibility to do what she loves. If we're weaving the whole same sequence and we say, this is a 4-6 that does what she loves. She knows, she trusts her inner guidance. She trusts her discernment. And that is what she uses in her everyday life when she connects with others. And that makes her an empathic person. That makes her somebody that people love. And that's why everything is just a phone call away for her, just like knocking on the door across the street for her. And that's when her soul starts to feel nurtured. Oh, my neighbors are looking in the same direction. People are coming to my balcony looking in the same direction. We can be nurtured together. She taps into her very, very feminine essence and radiance and health that she has in the 2nd Genki, the prime yin, the really, really feminine flow. In every moment, she's like a GPS, and she feels into what's right for her. And that creates a core stability where she can trust her creativity. She's going to have periods where it's very calm. It might even feel like nothing happens. It might feel like melancholy, but she can appreciate those moments instead of running away from them. She can appreciate that sometimes creativity comes and sometimes it's not there. And that's nothing we can control. Spirit decides. So she's going to trust spirit for when creativity comes into form in her life. She's not going to be hungry or have a brain chemistry that is off with serotonin, for example, or tryptophan or oxytocin, because she's going to be grounded in her body, in her divine feminine and masculine. She's going to understand that spirit and matter go together. So that's from that place of being content, of seeing life as an adventure and a co-creation. She's going to create romance, both in sexual relationships and in life. She's going to create romance because she has a 4th line attraction, a 4th line life's work and evolution. It's all about that for her. And then it starts to be able to melt this core wound of repression. And she starts to become self-honest. And with that, she can always tune in more to the core of who she is. And that's when she starts to transform and transfigure. And she becomes a role model for transformation, a role model for transmuting karma. I feel like I'm transmuting karma. And that's what's going to be the fuel for her being this virtuous spokesperson that is sharing a vision of what's coming. And also in her everyday life, she's going to be able to be appreciated in partnership, and maybe even create revolutions in how people relate to each other. And that's also what's going to have her essence, this essence of empathy, of discernment, of listening. It's really becoming very powerful and helping her to overcome the challenge of the evolution. So that's really the 4-6 that breaks through, opposed to the 4-6 that doesn't break through. And it's a completely different story. And I'm going to see if Simone has anything to add to this.
I was, what was coming through was really focusing in on the breakthrough part of this, and the wisdom to know to pivot. That, you know, sometimes we create structures that we think are working for us, and then as we evolve, change, grow, do our work with our gene keys, things are shifting. And especially for the 4-6, how important it is to continually pivot as you open up more and more. And as you know, I know in my own life that things that I thought would be my trajectory, if I'm in every time I'm in my wholeheartedness, I was continually pivoting and opening up more and more and more to that. And that was what I was watching when you were talking about that. So the capacity to pivot and change and grow when you're expanding, and that can be, you know, scary, you know, and yet it's as scary to not pivot when your body and your soul and you have the vibrational field that, you know, pivoting is essential. So there's something there.
Yeah, I love that. And that, I feel, is a message to, all 4-6s and probably beyond that. But it feels like really something to focus on. So I want to do a similar thing here and see that it's still the same story, but it's different through the gene key. So here we have a 4-6 that need to do what they love. So here we have the nightmare where it doesn't do what it loves. It's going to be an anxiety. It's going to try to distract itself out of anxiety, distraction. It's going to feel limited. Like, is this all it is? In relationships, especially in love, it's going to feel limited. That's maybe going to even addictions or any kind of distractions to not feel. That is going to not allow it to come into the radiance and the purpose. So it's going to have the soul kind of feeling like, I'm never growing up. I'm never getting there. And it can feel very chaotic. It's like you try, it's limited. You feel you break through the limitation, but actually you kind of still have to either come in chaos or start from zero. You're going to feel like there's something off. There's some kind of corruption. You're probably going to go between feeling it's your fault and somebody else's fault. So that's like the fifth that sees the corruption in society. But what I see very strong in this chart, and I can't help by bringing it in, we have a 4-6, 0.4, 0.4, 0.6, 0.6 in the green spheres. But when we look at the whole thing on the inside, vocation, line 3, SQ, line 3, EQ, line 3, IQ, line 3, it's like we have all, and Pearl, line 3. So we have a 4-6 that is very transpersonal, and she's here to do in the world is transpersonal. But there is something on the inside, especially with this core wound, that says, something's wrong with me. There's something that's like I'm failing in. And I feel like it can be a lot of a frustration to have all these third lines on the inside. So when you have what we were saying, the distraction, the limitation, the chaos, and the corruption, of course, in relationships can be really dark. And it can feel the same thing as for Nia that we were just looking at. It can feel like, it's like, no, there is no fertile ground to put the seeds in relationships, and there is not this there is no romance, and it can get really dark. And that's when the soul says, like, this is like a really dishonoring journey. It's distraction and limitation and chaos and corruption. Like, it's very dishonoring to be human. Why am I even here? Why did I decide to come to this body? And then feeling like, where's, is it my fault? Where's the pleasure? Like that kind of feeling of shame or failure. Not having the energy to really become a spokesperson for how to enrich your life, not being a spokesperson for the new kind of intimacy, how we relate in a way that we create new relationships that also create value and prosperity in this world. That's not going to be unlocked. So again, what do we want here? We want somebody who she does what she loves. She enriches herself every single day. And by enriching herself, she's going to create a new reality for herself. She's going to create other relationships, another community is going to vibe with her in that enrichment. She's going to be able to access that playfulness in the eternal child that is in her, that is like an eternal child that is really kind of an energetic child that can really, it's almost like it's kind of what Simone is. It can feel, it can hear, it's really tapped into all the senses, and it's like reading the world through that innocence. And then suddenly it's like it becomes like musical almost. Life becomes musical, and you can hear and feel what is like when the tones are playing false and when the tones are playing clean or playing in the right tone. And you're going to be able, just by going in a room, it feels like your aura is going to know, is there chaos and interference and corruption in this group or in this room, or is it something that can nurture my soul? And that's what's going to allow you to have people that are going to look in the same vision, direction, future, and that are going to nurture you. And suddenly you're creating new ideals with these people. You're starting to feel like it's going to become more light. There is more trust, there is more friendship, there's even more romance. And suddenly you are this eternal child. When you're enriching yourself, when you're doing what you love, when your life becomes music, suddenly what happens in this thing that just felt like failure is that you come into grace. You're like, yeah, life is a rocky road, but there's some grace in it. There is some playfulness. The third line says, it's like, I can cry, I can laugh, but at least I'm alive. It can be chaotic sometimes, but then I come in and I remember that I'm a playful child. That's what's happening. And what I see is that when this opens up, you're also awakening to your pleasure. You're awakening to your initiative in this world. You're awakening to your own unique style. You're awakening to not run away and distract yourself, but start to start to tell the story of your life. Start to kind of use your perceived failures in order to connect with people on a more intimate level, in order to show society what is dishonesty, what is corruption. And instead of that, coming into intimacy, transparency, equilibrium, and harmony. And that is what happens when you allow the fourth line to open its heart, to trust, to enrich itself, and to tap into the sixth line. So it all starts always with a profile. It's with that you need to unlock the 4-6, and first and foremost the 4 before anything else can unlock. And this is why Richard Rudd calls it the activation sequence. You have to activate the sun and the earth in your conscious, the sun and your earth in your unconscious. That's when your relationships can open up. That's when your core wound can turn and be used as fuel for what you're here to do in the world on an everyday basis and what your role is. And you're a spokesperson for enriching your life from a place that's not taking from anybody else, but it's enriching the whole. It's the sixth line of role modeling that says, there's enough for everybody, and I have a music that we can all play so that we all come in harmony. And that's how we start to live a life in grace, but a life that is deeply, deeply human, that it's okay to fail and come up again. There's something beautiful with that through that we are actually catalyzing our own awakening. So this is a very interesting profile. So your name is Karina. And I would actually like Simone to kind of tap into Karina, because I feel like this chart has to do with that paradox of the fourth land being very transpersonal, but here there's something very personal in the inner sphere. And I would like to hear some soul message before we wrap up, Simone, if that's okay for you. And this is Karina. Karina, I don't even have the last name, but that's the first name.
Yeah. Yeah, Karina's soul, the first image that her soul gave me was it's time to sweep out. And it's sweeping out the left side. So sweeping out, well, let me go this way because it's my left is different than what y'all are seeing. But Karina's soul says it's time to sweep out and clear out. And the scene that I'm seeing is it's like fall leaves, and the soul is sweeping out the leaves that have fallen. And her soul says it's like several years of leaves falling, and there's this capacity, this fertile ground that is awaiting to grow. And the way her soul is communicating with me through her divine masculine. So I'm using the word he. So what he's saying is that, and what he's showing me is, imagine that we just swept all the leaves from this fertile ground, and we can see the soil, and there's little bitty blades of grass or something is ready to burst and grow. But if you don't sweep out the leaves, you can't see what's growing. And the soul asks the question, will it still grow whether you sweep or not? Well, it will. And yet, if it has to grow through the leaves, it's almost like it shows me it's spindly. So it's not going to grow the same. And no right or wrong, right? But that when you sweep out the leaves, you get to have the full experience with the thing that wants to grow, that you've fertilized and is ready to come into fruition. And when you sweep out the leaves, you can be a part of the cultivation of this gift that's inside of you that's ready to grow. And one thing that when I'm seeing images, if something like really sticks out, I make a point to emphasize it. And it's like the color of the blades of grass. They're like otherworldly, and they're almost shining. They're glowing. There's so much life force. So I always make a point to emphasize things in the videos or the pictures that really stand out. And Karina's soul is showing me that part of the process of this cultivation of what's under there and ready to grow is watching it grow and co-creating it. Like imagine that you have planted a garden, and part of the delight is watching the seeds, break through the ground and nurturing them and going out and talk to them and visiting them and delighting in the growth of it. And Karina, your soul really wants you to have this experience of tending your garden. And really, there's this great honoring of the fertile ground that you have prepared or allowed to happen. So that's really, it's like a sacred ground. It feels, when I'm engaging with the ground, it's like sacred ground. And you have this very special growth that is ready to occur. And then your soul says, look around, and it stepped back. And so I went, my screens went from very intense focused look at this growth to looking around. And we're in the middle of a forest and there's so much growth everywhere. And your soul wants you to see it all. It's not just about focusing in, but it's also recognizing that there is growth all around you. You're not the only one growing. Even people around you, the world around you is growing, and to notice that and to be aware of that. So there's this, focused image, and then there are these broad images that are coming through. And your soul is taking me into your heart chakra. And I'm watching your heart chakra fill, and it's like there's so much capacity in you. And this period of exploration is the filling of your heart. And as your soul says that, I have so much excitement in my own vessel, and I'm like covered in chicken skin because it's so exciting to watch your heart filling up. And he says you may not even know what to do with it all. So there's a lot there, a lot of energy for you to experience. And your soul finally says this is going to feel like coming home, like coming home in a way you've never experienced before. And then he threw some doors open. It's like you come home and you want to open the doors, like, open the barn doors and invite everyone in, because you are coming home to yourself. And super exciting. I'm covered in chicken skin. I'm so excited for you, Karina.
Thank you, Simone. Yeah, I feel like I understand that, especially for the Genkis, it's like a little bit hard if you don't have a background. And I wanna make sure, or I feel I actually wanna this time tell people I feel like you should study them. I think that what we are doing here is to understand that when you look at the green spheres, the number after the dots, so the 4 and the 6, is really so much the way in. If you get your profile right, there's so much that's going to unlock, and it's so much that can start to happen right. And you could see in that kind of weave that we just did, and even in what Simone said right now to Karina, it kind of goes into that very simple thing for the 4th line: break out of anxiety by coming back to your heart, and that's how you can be a role model. It's that simple, because that's what's going to unlock the other thing. I would still say it's really good for you to actually learn about the green spheres activation sequence, about the red spheres, the Venus sequence, about relationship and love, and the blue sequence about manifestation and business and outer expression. So I usually never do this, but I'm actually going to post our Cyber Monday deals for the activation sequence, the Venus sequence. And I'm also going to post a possibility to do a really discounted reading live with me and Simone, and Ashley also works with us. So I'm just going to post it in the chat, because I feel like you guys are on and you are following, but I know that this is also kind of heavy in one way, and they are like, and we also have a line course. So the line course it's discounted like $49. I think it's all about the lines, so you can learn about the first line, the second line, and then you can apply it in your profile. You're going to know all about all the lines, and then you meet somebody who's a 5-1, you're like, oh, I know exactly the 5 line, I know exactly the first line. So you can start to be an expert of the lines, and then you kind of have the key in to everybody, including yourself. So that's something that I can't really highlight how much I feel like that is, knowing the lines is giving you a key to open your profile, open your destiny, open your alignment with who you truly are. Do you want to add anything, Simone? What's coming through for you?
Oh, I'm super excited. Thank you for all those offers, because having been with you and Bella through the activation sequence and the Venus sequence, I know what an amazing gift that is. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that generosity of spirit. I love it. And I am so in love with Karina's chart. When you first, can you go back to it?
Mm-hmm.
When you first opened it, yeah, I was seeing this geometry move from her radiance to her vocation to her pearl. And I got so super excited. I could see this trajectory of the energy moving from her radiance to her vocation to her pearl, and then also from her IQ to her heart to her culture. So that's not usually a trajectory that we go through, but why might that be really, like when you first brought her profile up, I saw the energy of those two geometries through those two lines. So why might that be popping up?
So you were thinking of the culture together with what sphere?
To start with, the first thing that popped that kind of glowed and popped out was radiance to vocation to pearl, that kind of diagonal line, and then another diagonal line, the IQ to the SQ to the culture. So I saw this energy fly out, and it was like, oh, this is first off an amazing chart. I always see the beauty in the charts. It's just I was so excited by them, but I have never seen the energy flow like that when you pull up a chart. So it's interesting. And I was just wondering if, from a HD or Genki's perspective, why might that be energy that's flowing for Karina?
Yeah, I feel like a couple of things. Like, of course, the radiance, a 3, a 2, a 4, 6 needs to be in the body. And when she's in her radiance, when she is doing what she loves and her radiance becomes big, that is what's going to fuel her vocation. That's what's going to help her go from dishonor to grace, because she's so embodied. She's embodying that eternal child that is trusting and innocent. And that, of course, is going to be it's part of her essence. That's how she can start to celebrate life, although it's a rocky road in a way, but it comes from being anchored in that radiance, in that inner eternal child that never kind of loses the hope that it's worth it. So that's super powerful. And then there is something here that I feel, again, there are all these third lines that can feel like they are failing, or can feel like, they're not getting it right, or maybe they feel like they're getting it right, but other people are kind of saying, no, it's not what you should do. And it's like, it's really you being you, playing with energy, being in trial and error when it feels like, exploring, like that energy. Is what's going to lead you into your leadership every day, where you are a leader for a new kind of relating, for a new kind of intimacy. And that is like, and that's where I see that the culture and the purpose work together, because you are breaking the dishonesty on a kind of personal relating level on an everyday basis. But really what you're doing is anchoring in your 6-line purpose of saying, this world needs more equilibrium, more harmony, less corruption. But you are doing it through your interaction, through your kind of body, through your aura on an everyday basis. And by doing that on an everyday basis, by relating to, being a role model for how to relate in a new way, you're also completely aligned with your purpose. So it comes from accepting that maybe other people are not going to give you approval. They're not going to give you attention. They're even going to shame you. They're even going to say that, it's not. But no, you are here for your own awakening. This is also a very good example of you are here to be transpersonal, but there is the kind of the way still for 4-6 has to do with what you love. It has to do with what you feel is your playground, what you are here to do. So yeah, I can see that geometry too, Simone.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do that, because it was like pushing to come out, and I had to say it, and I knew you had the key. So really, thank you, thank you, thank you. I learned from that too. And thank you for Karina for being so courageous to do this with us live. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and I know, Simone, you have some third lines too in your attraction, for example, and in a couple of places you have other lines. And I guess that's the thing too, as a 4-6, to not be too much in perfection. That it's only perfection that's okay. No, to also understand that life is a combination of all the lines, and that's how we don't become arrogant. That's how we don't become like convincing everybody that we are the best, or it's like, or that this is the way it is. So I like that we can tune into the other line and like really find the aliveness through the other lines as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, because I do have those 3 lines, I have always laughed at myself. Like I can totally laugh at myself, and I will, and there's delight in that, the lightheartedness of being able to not take everything so seriously. I mean, I have gone to that in my life, but I mostly have fun with myself and find the humor. The lightheartedness, I feel like, works in my own trajectory, is that the more lighthearted I am with myself in those 3s, the more my heart opens up in the 4s, the more I'm aligning with the 6. So it's,
Yeah, I so feel that similar to you. Absolutely. It's like threading the human with the other, like with the other part. Like you cannot be a role model if you're not human. Like how can you be a role model if you're not human? And how can you be like, how can you be in your heart if you don't have that playfulness? If you don't, so yeah, absolutely. So this was a marathon. We were on for 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Where does it go? We're having so much fun.
And yeah, we hope that this like non-linear explanation of the 4-6 and the examples that we did, that they were illuminating. Also, we would love Nia and Karina, to let us know if this resonated, because that's also going to make the other people who watched know if it's just we kind of making up a story, or if it's actually part of your imprint, part of your DNA, part of your blueprint, part of what you're here to break through, to embody, and to live with. So yeah, thank you everybody. And next week we will be back, and we are going to be in the 3-6 profile, if I don't mistake myself. So 3-6 next week. And until then, have a good week. Bye.